When you think of the Great Wall of China, what comes to mind? Probably this epic, almost mythical dragon of stone, snaking its way over endless mountains and across vast deserts. It's so much more than just a wall. It's one of those achievements that just looms so large in our imagination.
And because it's so legendary, it's picked up its fair share of myths. But there's one that stands above all the others, the big one you've probably asked yourself before. Can you really see the Great Wall from space with just your eyes?
All right, let's just settle this right here, right now. It is a fantastic idea, but the answer is a definitive no. Astronaut after astronaut has confirmed it. Yeah, it's incredibly long, but it's also really narrow. Trying to see it from orbit would be like trying to spot a single human hair from a couple of miles away. It's just not going to happen.
So, since we can't see it from space, what should we be looking at? Well, that's what we're here to do. We're going to dive past the myths and get into the mind-blowing reality. We'll tackle the legends, trace its history through time, talk about the people who actually built it, figure out what it was really for, and see where this stone dragon stands today.
So, let's start by getting past some of the biggest myths, the ideas that really shape how we all picture the wall.
The very first myth we have to bust is the idea of the Great Wall, as if it's one single unbroken thing. It's not. It's actually this massive, sprawling system of walls, forts, and trenches built over, get this, 2,500 years by more than 20 different dynasties. It's a patchwork quilt of history.
And I think this quote from historian William Lindsay just nails it. The Great Wall is not a place, it's a presence, a network woven across the entire landscape of northern China. There are pieces of it out there that most people have never seen, and some that are barely even on the map.
So, if it is this giant patchwork, how on earth did it come to be? Well, for that, we have to turn back the clock, a long, long way back. The whole story kicks off over 2.5 millennia ago, with different states building their own little walls for protection. Then came Emperor Qin Shi Huang, who had this grand vision to connect a bunch of them. After that, the Han Dynasty kept building, pushing the wall way out west to protect the famous Silk Road. But the wall you and I picture, the magnificent stone one, that was the grand finale, built by the Ming Dynasty.
And this just shows you how brilliantly the wall adapted. It was never a one-size-fits-all deal. Out in the middle of the Gobi Desert, the Han Dynasty builders used what was there: dirt, gravel, even reeds, all pounded down into solid layers. But near Beijing, the Ming builders had access to stone quarries, so they created that iconic fortress wall we all know from the photos.
So, what happens when you add it all up? Every section from every dynasty, every forgotten little mound of earth, you get this: 21,196 kilometers. That is more than half the distance around the entire planet. It's a number so huge it's almost impossible to really wrap your head around.
But numbers and stones only tell part of the story. A project this huge wasn't built by emperors drawing lines on a map. It was built on the backs of millions of people. And their story, well, that reveals the true human cost of it all. So who were these builders? It was a real mix. You had tons of soldiers, of course. But you also had millions of ordinary people, farmers, basically pulled from their fields and forced into service. And then there was the darkest side: convicts and political prisoners, for whom being sent to the wall was often a death sentence. And get this, about 2/3 of the entire Great Wall system isn't even made of stone. It was built with this incredibly clever but brutal technique. Workers would basically pour earth into wooden frames and then pound it down, layer by layer, until it was as hard as rock. We even know they created rhythmic work songs to keep the beat while they pounded away, day after day. Just imagine that sound, echoing for centuries.
And you know who's so often forgotten in this story? The women. We know from historical records that in many farming communities, it was actually groups of women who formed the construction crews. They were continuing building traditions that had been passed down for generations, using the same skills they used to build their own homes.
All of that human suffering, it had to go somewhere, and it poured out into legends. The most famous is the heartbreaking story of Lady Meng. Her husband was taken to work on the wall and died there. She traveled for miles to find his body, and when she got to the wall, she wept with such grief that a section of it just collapsed, revealing his bones inside. Her story became this powerful symbol of the people's pain.
So, after all that sacrifice, what was this whole thing actually for? Was it really just a giant keep out sign? The reality, as you might guess, is way more sophisticated.
You really have to think of the wall as the backbone of a whole defensive ecosystem. It wasn't just a line, it was a zone. You had the wall itself, sure, but you also had huge fortresses, watchtowers to see enemies coming, towns to house all the troops, and, maybe most important of all, a super-fast communication system.
And that communication system was basically the high-speed internet of the ancient world. Seriously. A guard in a beacon tower would see an enemy approaching. During the day, they'd light a smoky fire made from wolf dung. At night, they'd use flames. Using a simple code, like this one from the Ming Dynasty, a message could zip from tower to tower, covering hundreds of kilometers in just a few hours. Way faster than a rider on a horse.
Okay, so it was this massive, complex, high-tech defense system. But here's the million-dollar question. Did it actually work? Was it truly impenetrable?
Well, the short answer is not always. The history books are full of times the wall was breached. Genghis Khan and the Mongols, they famously just went around a section of it. And often the biggest weakness wasn't a flaw in the stone, but a flaw in human nature. A gate could always be opened if a guard was bribed.
Which is why its real power might have been more psychological. More than anything, the wall was a statement. It was a giant line in the sand, separating what the Chinese empires saw as their civilized, ordered world from the nomadic cultures to the north. It made an idea, a worldview, into a physical reality you could see and touch.
All right, so let's jump forward to today. The wall isn't holding back armies anymore. So what is its role in the 21st century?
Check out this number, 11 million. That's how many tourists visit just one section of the wall, the one at Batalang, every single year. The Great Wall has completely transformed from a military border into a global cultural icon. But as you can probably imagine, that level of fame comes at a cost. The ancient dragon is now facing a whole new set of enemies. The threats are coming from all sides. You have the constant wear and tear from millions of visitors. You have modern highways and railways that literally just slice right through it. You have centuries of wind and rain doing their damage. And sadly, in some remote areas, people have taken bricks from the wall to build houses or even to sell to tourists. But it's not all doom and gloom. There is hope. A whole new army of conservationists is fighting to protect it. And what's so cool is that to save the wall, they're looking to the past. They are painstakingly using the same ancient techniques and materials, including, and I am not making this up, a special mortar that was mixed with sticky rice, which the original builders knew made it extra strong.
And that leaves us with one final big question. The wall's original job is done, so what is it defending now, in our time? What does this stone dragon truly protect? Maybe its purpose has shifted. Maybe it's no longer about keeping people out, but about protecting a story for all of us. A story of human ingenuity, incredible perseverance, and a cultural heritage that belongs to the entire world.